June 27, 2010, Toronto, Canada. The mighty and powerful have come together to meet at the G20 summit. But also, thousands of people have gathered to express their discontent about what? When you've heard about globalization, chances are you have heard about the anti-globalization movement. And when talking about this movement, many people have these pictures of mass protestants, riots, and burning cars on their mind. But who are they actually? Are they just a bunch of violent maniacs? Or a worldwide organization of like-minded people? And what drives them? What are their motives?
To understand what the anti-globalization movement is, we first need to look at what globalization is. A general description would be to say that regional economies, societies and cultures have become integrated through a global network of communication, transportation and trade. What does that mean in our daily lives? We're surrounded by products from all over the world. In the room we're sitting in, working on this video, there's a sweater made in India, jeans made in Tunisia, and shoes, bags, laptops, and a calculator all made in China. And those are just a few examples. Is there anything wrong with that, you might think? Well, some people strongly oppose the economic system that has led to today's situation. They are often referred to as the anti-globalization movement. Let's start by saying that they are not just a bunch of violent maniacs. Most people that consider themselves to be anti-globalists are not violent at all. But there are extremists who cause riots, and they are the ones dominating the image of the anti-globalization movement in the media. Then what is this movement? It seems to be big and they seem to be able to organize themselves and protest. That's what we see on the news. But it is certainly not a group that you can join by paying a membership fee. The simple reason for that is that there is no official organization. Their voice is not officially represented in established national or international institutions. The movement does have some well-known faces, however. For example, economist Joseph Stiglitz, philosopher Noam Chomsky, and author Naomi Klein.
I see a trend towards a really disturbing mix of big corporate power, big state power in the interests of the elite.
An important aspect of the anti-globalization movement is that the people making up the movement do not all have the same opinions and motives. It is not a homogeneous group. Some of them are concerned with human rights, others with environmental issues, and others with free trade. But the majority is against corporate capitalism. They are against the capitalist system on which today's economy is based. And one of the features of the capitalist system is the existence of big, multinational corporations. Since these multinationals are such a big cause of anger for anti-globalists, let's have a look at what the reason for this anger could be.
They don't talk about minutes. They break the time frame into 10,000ths of a second. You get to the bottom of all 22 operations to give the workers 6.6 minutes to make the shirt. It's 70 cents an hour in the Dominican Republic. That 6.6 minutes equals 8 cents. These are Nike's documents. That means the wages come to 0.3% of the retail price. This is the reality. It's the science.
Our water produce cancer and also birth defects, some other toxic effects.
Of the 20th century. Attractive, wasteful, abusive, linear in all of its processes. Taking from the earth, making, wasting, sending its products back to the biosphere, waste to a will.
Exxon guilty in connection to federal criminal charges with the Valdez spill and paid $125 million in criminal fines. General Electric was guilty of defrauding the federal government and paid $9 million in criminal fines. Chevron was guilty of environmental violations and paid $6.5 million. Mitsubishi was guilty of antitrust violations and paid $1 million. IDEA was guilty of illegal exports and paid $6 million. Was guilty of environmental violations. Pfizer, the drug manufacturer, was guilty of antitrust violations. Was guilty of food and drug regulatory violations. Sears was guilty of financial fraud. Was guilty of fraud and environmental violations. Guilty of an antitrust violation. Paid $5 million in criminal fines.
Again and again, we have the problem that whether you obey the law or not is a matter whether it's cost effective.
Now, let's have a look at what some anti-globalists have to say. Someone who is strongly against the large multinationals would define globalization as follows.
Globalization is an attempt to extend corporate monopoly control over the entire globe, over every national economy, over every local economy, over every life.
This, however, is quite an extreme opinion. Let's hear two more moderate voices representing the thoughts of the anti-globalization movement. The voices of Joseph Stiglitz and Noam Chomsky.
There's been a fundamental change in capitalism. That the old story that still is in the textbook is of a company that is owned by the person. If he makes a mistake, that person bears the consequences. Modern capitalism isn't that way. It's a separation of ownership and control. And so the guys who are under control are effectively interested in maximizing their own well-being, not any other stakeholder. Globalization does bring benefits if it's managed well. Well, managing it well entails making sure that the benefits are shared. And part of the problem is the benefits have not been shared. That we have to figure out ways of protecting these people who are losers. There was no theory that ever said that everybody would gain from globalization. It was that the winners could compensate the losers, but they haven't.
Used neutrally, globalization just means international integration. Okay, everybody's in favor of it. Now, the term has been appropriated by a narrow sector of power and privilege to refer to their version of international integration, the investor rights version. And that makes sense for them to try to to own the term, because anyone who's opposed to their version then becomes anti-globalization. It's a bad error on the part of the critics of this investor rights version of integration to accept the term anti-globalization. They should not. We're all in favor of globalization. The question is it going to be in the interests of people or in the interests of private power?
The anti-globalization protests are one of the most globalized events on the planet, so it is hard to find that the anti-globalization movement is against globalization itself. It is rather the continuing deprivation and disparities in the world and the role of the multinational companies in it that drive the movement. It is now up to the international institutions to hear the voices of the protesters, giving their arguments a fair chance.